All right, y'all. Hey, everybody. It is I, Hope Giselle, and I am coming at y'all with my Get Ready With Me this morning and all of that supreme and utter jazz. I am getting ready to do a project that y'all will know about soon enough. But right about now, I'm just trying to get y'all acclimated. Ooh, I'm trying to get y'all acclimated to, having these conversations with me. So if you follow me and if you are, in the know about the things and you know what I posted this morning, I released an article on Substack about gay men not being gay like they used to be. Now, I know that some of y'all saw that title and was like, say what, bitch? And then some of y'all saw that title and almost probably immediately knew where I was going with it. To the folks that get it, thank you. To the folks that don't, let me explain. Let's have a conversation, love. Let's have a conversation, girly pop, I think that one of the things that really prompted me to write this article. And for those of you all who are not on my Instagram or who have not been on my Instagram yet this morning, I wrote an article that's really about my realization over the last couple of months, really, where I'm noticing that there are a lot of gay men or men that I have assumed to be gay. And these men are not as gay as I thought that they were, and or these men don't navigate the world as gay as they thought that they were going to navigate the world. And that really proposed a lot of thoughts in me, especially as a trans woman, especially as a Black trans woman. I have really, I don't want to say struggled, but I have really had an intimate relationship with navigating what it means to be both a gay man and then somebody who is in proximity or shares community with gay men. And what I have learned is that the more freedom that we give ourselves and the more agency and license to love that we give ourselves as human beings and as everyday people, shameless plug to everyday people, I will be there in LA on Sunday. So if you're trying to go to everyday people in LA on Sunday, you will see me. Okay. But anyway, outside of that, I believe that there is a certain agency and a certain freedom that we have now started to afford ourselves. And when I say ourselves, I do mean the general public. I don't mean just gay men. I'm not calling myself a man or anything like that. But I really believe that there is something that's happening around the conversation, at least with gay men. Because y'all, the amount of gay men that have pushed up on me, the amount of gay men who have had erections while holding me, touching me, talking to me, the amount of gay men who have, been on a flirt is interesting. And we're not going to even talk about the fact that like niggas don't care if you are wifed up, husband up, spoused up. Well, that's a different video for a whole different day. But I do want to say that there have been moments where I have been comfortable with men off of the strength that I believed that they were not attracted to women, off of the strength that I believed that I was not on their radar in a particular way. And so I let my guard down in a very specific way that I may or may not have let it down if I were under a different impression about their sexuality. Now, that really prompted me to have a whole different conversation and a whole, extra nuanced conversation around the way that I see a lot of gay men. And I say that because as a person who is not a heterosexual trans woman, I know that I married a man. I know that, I tend to have more masculine leaning, I guess, likes and dislikes or whatever the case may be as it pertains to my romantic sense. But I have dated women. I have been in love with women. I, do still find women sexually attractive. And also, I think that when we even think about the idea around transness or the way that people see trans people, and especially a trans woman who is post-op like me, folks don't expect you to have attractions for women because they expected or they believe that the reason that you transition was to do the thing that most cisgender heterosexual women do. And so it doesn't make sense to people for a trans woman who is so binary to say that she ain't straight, right? But I'm not. And that proposed a whole different set of questions for me in my head around gay men, because I think that a lot of the time, and yes, I'm going to be doing a lot of mental gymnastics to try to make this make sense. So you are not crazy. I'm not going to ask you to gaslight yourself or me. I am just saying that this is something that I wanted to like work through via the article. And I think I did a pretty good job expressing myself through my experiences. And I feel like I have to name that on social media these days, because somebody gonna see this and be so offended that their gayness is being called into question. And I just want to let you know, if you are a gold star or a platinum gay and you do not like girls, you ain't never liked girls, girls ain't on your menu, you don't want no puss, boobs scare you, this ain't for you, baby. This is not this ain't the video for you. And I'm not talking about you, sis. I know that there are some gay men that are just as gay as the day is long, and that's just what it's gonna be, and that's just how, you know, the things and of the things are just gonna work. But this is about, and this is for a lot of the gay men that I have come in contact with, especially lately, where I'm finding that a lot of sexuality has become a lot more fluid. And I think I understand, and I think I know why. Reason being is that if you're like me, especially, and you grew up in the 90s and you had the types of parents and you know, outer circle, inner circle, family circle that I had, there was only a couple of options that you had. And that was either you were going to be the straightest of the straight, or you were going to be the embarrassing, you know, gay guy in the family. And also, right, they were going to then push you into the gay guy activities while also judging you for doing the gay guy activities. And that didn't leave a lot of room for nuance, and especially as it pertains to sexuality, because also what I found was that when people found out that you were gay, specifically when your family found out that you were gay, they may not have wanted to talk about sexuality with you anymore in the way that they would have talked about sexuality with you when you were perceived to be heterosexual. So let me explain that. I don't know how many of you, you know, especially folks that at one point identified or had to identify or were forced to identify as a gay man, felt that before you came out, or before, you know, they started clocking things, especially once you got around, you know, pubescent age or puberty age, when things started to happen sexually for you, a lot of our parents, especially if you are, you know, within a community of color, will promote young boys starting to get into their sexual era. You know, it's like, you know, your dad will come into the room and throw condoms at you and say nothing, because a lot of our parents don't know how to have sexual conversations with Black children, which is the reason why a lot of us end up pregnant early, because all we know is that condoms exist and we should use them, but nobody talks to us about how do we experience pleasure when condoms feel like a hindrance sometimes. And I think that that's where a lot of parents go wrong. And the conversation y'all should be having with children is about how you navigate pleasure, how you navigate pain, consent, all of these different things, because kids gonna fuck regardless. And so I just feel like even though they shouldn't be at a certain age, if they're going to do it, they should know how to navigate it. And we spend so much more time trying to avoid the conversation as parents because we want to believe that all of our kids are going to be saints until the day that they get married, when we all know that that's not true. But again, I digress. That's a different video for a different day. One of the things that I do believe, however, is that those conversations, no matter how awkward they are, kind of become null and void when your parents realize that you are gay. Now, I'm specifically going to talk about the gay man's experience because I had, you know, that experience. And I don't even want to say the gay man's experience because I had the gay boy's experience. And I had a very particular gay boy's experience because I will never forget that I ended up having a conversation with my mom and one of my cousins. And it was funny because it was a read, because my mama was trying to read me, bitch. Okay, mama, if you watching this, I don't know if you watching this, but girl, if you watching this, don't forget that I remember you was trying to read me, because you remember when cousin Sean was like, are you a top or a bottom? And my mama straight up looked at me and was like, girl, what you think? And I was like, excuse me? You don't know if I get down. You don't know if I'm banging the boys. Like, you don't know. You don't know what I do. You don't know if I bend these niggas over. Like, you don't know what's going on over here. I'm going to need you to give me 50 feet, mother. Stay out of my bedroom. She was right, but it was the principal. Like, girl, don't be just trying to assign me a position because you know I'm feminine, girl. What if I was a blouse? Okay? What if I was a blouse? If y'all can't tell, my mama really pissed me off with that assumption of my sexuality and my sexual position. But I'm going to digress. Anyway, those are things that I felt like, because not only was I queer, but my mom assumed me to be the bottom in relationships, which I was. But again, I'm gonna say assume, because bitch, you didn't ask, you just assumed, okay? um, but my mom assumed me to be the bottom, and I think that that furthered the lack of conversation that we were able to have around sex. And so a large part of my sexuality was me coming to grips with the fact that I was queer, coming to grips with the fact that I also wasn't going to have much help in navigating myself sexually. And so what I will say, and where a large part of my balance came from, was when I was in elementary school. For those of you all who have read my book, you already know this story. But when I was in elementary school, I met a beautiful girl who, in my mind, God rest her soul, she looked like Beyonce to me. And she will always, like, if she was alive today, Kay would still be on here telling y'all probably in the comments right now, girl, I do not look like Beyonce. But in my mind, she was my Beyonce. And I met this young lady when I was about, I want to say like 7 or 8. We met in elementary school. And I was playing basketball with my best friend at the time. His name was Jonathan. And Jonathan and I were, doing the things. Basically, Jonathan was giving me like, Jonathan was like basically giving me lessons on how to be more masculine and how to be straight at school. And so things like playing basketball, playing football and stuff like that, when we would get to school in the morning, Jonathan would always like coach me through how to be a more masculine boy. Because even though he knew I was gay, Jonathan didn't want people to believe that I was soft. And so he kind of sort of like showed me the ropes. One of the mornings that he was showing me the ropes, we were playing basketball. I went to shoot a free throw and I hit Kay Sheila, which is her name. Not too much on her name, bitch. Her name is Kay Sheila, and that is still a person that I love, and she has passed away. So if you don't want me to kirk out, watch your mouth, okay? But anyway, Kay Sheila was walking. I threw the ball to throw a free throw, and I hit her in the head by accident. Now, mind you, again, we're in elementary school. We were fairly young. So before me and Jonathan checked on her, we cackled. I ain't gonna even hold you. We cackled, we kikied, we ha-ha'd, because it was just, we're young and it was funny. But I did go and check on her. And upon checking on her, Kay Sheila cussed me the fuck out. Okay. This young girl got up, and again, we're like 7, and this girl was cussing like she was somebody's 37-year-old auntie. Okay. She cussed me out. I cussed her out. We went back and forth, and she went and told her auntie, who was happening to be standing like 2 feet away. So of course she runs over to this adult, and I'm like, no, it was a mistake. And from that day forward, we were inseparable. Okay. I apologized to her. Her auntie was just like, y'all are 2 beautiful kids. Y'all don't need to be out here fighting with each other. Y'all need to hug and make up. And there was something about that hug and, the way that she was, that I still remember. Even as an adult, that was the first time that I hugged a girl and felt anything other than envy for the fact that I couldn't be her, right? And I remember when I told Kay Sheila that I liked her and that I wanted her to be my girlfriend, I was scared because Jonathan, like I told y'all, my best friend who was trying to teach me to be straight, Jonathan was trying to teach me to butch it up and to masculinize myself in order to be able to get her, because everybody at the school knew that I was the school sissy. It was no, surprise or secret. It wasn't like I was trying to hide it. I wasn't pretending to be DL. Even at that age, it was very clear that I was gay, and I did not feel the need to hide it. Howsoever, Jonathan felt like the best way to approach Kay Sheila was with these new lessons that I was being given by him. And every single time that I approached her with one of those male machismo, like weird moments, she would always turn me down. So the example was, y'all remember when we were in school and kids would pass those little notes back and forth? And so Jonathan would coach me to write Kay Sheila a note, and we would pass the note and we would send the note to each other, through different people in class. And it would always start the same way. It would always be like, I like you. Do you like me? Circle yes or no. She would always circle yes. And then I would be like, do you want to be my girlfriend? Yes or no. And she would always circle yes. And then Jonathan would always throw in some masculine, over hyper, heteronormative prompt for me to ask her. And he would always like throw in something like, do you want to hunch me, or do you want to go to the slide during recess? And because I'm just this little gay boy who does have this crush on this girl, I am assuming that this is how boys talk to girls, because that is what this boy who I trusted to coach me through the straightness was telling me to say. And every single time that I would pivot the conversation to something sexual, she would always stop responding. And I did not understand for the life of me what that was about. And so one day I remember at recess, I found her and I was like, if you like me, then why won't you just be my girlfriend? And she told me it was because I kept trying to ask her to hunch. And that was something that she did not like. She didn't enjoy that. And what I realized in that moment was that I could be myself, and that Sheila liked me regardless of the fact that I wasn't super masculine. She liked me regardless of the fact that everybody at the school was calling me a sissy and calling me a faggot and all of these other things. And I didn't have to be Jonathan in order to get her attention, because she liked me anyway. And so Sheila and I started dating. And shortly after we started dating, Sheila started getting a lot of backlash for dating me, because again, I was not hiding the fact that I was definitely, gay. Once I found out what gay was, that was what I, addressed myself as. And the entire school kind of knew it, the adults included, and all of these other things. And I had already self-proclaimed it to a lot of my other fellow students. And so I think everybody was confused as to why Sheila was dating this boy who had already said that he likes boys. And even at that young age, because I know some of y'all are going to be like, Hope, this is a bullshit story. I have plenty of people who I am still friends with from elementary school that will tell you this is not a bullshit story. This is how this happened, okay? So about, I want to say like a couple of weeks into us dating, I get to school a little bit late this particular day. I don't know why I was late. I'm never really late, but this particular day I was late for whatever reason. And when I get into the school, the first thing that I get is Jonathan running up to me at full speed. And he's like, come on, come here. And so I was like, what is going on? And he was like, Sheila fighting. And so at that point, I was like, wait a minute, fighting who? Now, Sheila was fighting this girl who was also super popular. And Jonathan didn't tell me why they were fighting. He just told me that they were fighting. But when I got over there, I walked up to Sheila and the girl in an argument, in an altercation. And the first thing I hear is, that's why everybody know your boyfriend a faggot. Okay. Sheila beat the dog shit out of this little girl. She beat the brakes off of her. Do you hear me? Like, she beat the shit out of this girl. And I think that as a boyfriend, as a friend, and as a young queer boy who never thought that anybody besides my best friend Jonathan would stand up for me, I thought that that was one of the most beautiful acts of somebody showing me that they care about me, that a 10-year-old or a 7-8-year-old could actually experience. And what I really liked about that was that after the fight was over, I remember distinctly, I will never forget that day. Sheila beat that girl up. She readjusted her ponytail after the fight was over, before the teachers came, and she grabbed my hand and she was like, and if he a faggot, he's my faggot. And there was something about those words that day that made me fall in love with her in a way that I don't think I had fallen in love with anybody. And I think that was like our exclusive bonding moment, at least for me. And I'm telling y'all this story because I'm telling y'all that if you had left it up to society to decide whether or not I was even capable of finding a young woman attractive, let alone actually dating a young woman and meaning all of the feelings that I was expressing to her about her, most people would have looked at you and said, that's a punk. Right? It ain't no way that he likes that girl. There's no way that he should be dating that girl. And I think that unlike a lot of people who have probably been in this particular situation, I was lucky and blessed enough that not only did Sheila like me, but even though everybody could see that I was clearly a very queer young man, her mom was super supportive of us dating. Her mom, was super supportive of me coming over. And I'm not sure if some of it was a read. Maybe some of it was because she knew that I was gay, or she knew that I, obviously had feminine tendencies. And so she felt more comfortable with her daughter dating me because maybe she didn't feel like she would pop up pregnant and all of this stuff. And I know that I'm skipping a lot of details because I'm trying to stay within a certain time frame. But let's just say that Sheila and I dated off and on until high school when I got my first like real boyfriend, and she got her first like real boyfriend, and then we both just, you know, we became really good friends into the rest of life. And there was a point in time where after my transition, I did want to try to pick things up and like maybe see where things could go. And Kay Sheila promptly told me that she was not a lesbian and she didn't like girls. And so at this point, it was a done deal. And so I think that a large part of the reason why I wrote this article this morning, and I talked about gay men not being gay, because I feel like I had a certain level of freedom that allowed me space to really think about what women meant to me and to really think about what it was that I was attracted to. And also I had a space where I was welcomed in to do that exploration in a way that didn't feel exploitative to the woman that I really liked and that I love and that I was finding, you know, space and love and enjoyment with. And I also had people who were around that supported the fact that we were doing a thing, and they respected it. They didn't have to understand it. They didn't have to believe whether or not I liked her. All they had to do was know that we were two kids that were trying to figure it out. And I wonder how many people or how many of these men that are identifying as gay today would have been different if they had had a Kay Sheila in their life. And I wonder how many of these gay men that identify as gay today would have been different if they would have been affirmed in their femininity, but not forced into their queerness. Let me say that again. I wonder how many gay men would actually be gay today if they had just been affirmed in their femininity and not forced into their queerness. And I say this because there are so many people that will see certain attributes or certain characteristics play out in young feminine boys and immediately throw the moniker of, you're gay, I knew it from the time that you was born and all this and that. And it's just like, no, you didn't know it from the time that I was born, but you assumed that because I didn't fit into a specific mold that I had to be something. And it honestly makes you feel a lot more comfortable when you feel like you can justify my behavior with a particular title. And a lot of people don't understand how detrimental that can honestly be when you are trying to avoid that as a part of the situation. Sometimes you just got to let people be who they are. And I think that a large part of this conversation for me is really important and imperative, because I find that there are so many gay men that oftentimes will be hypersexual towards women when they get drunk, or hypersexual towards women in private settings, or they'll be hypersexual towards women, you know, in the DMs or messages or things like that, because they never really were socialized to have romantic relationships with women, because they had been told their entire life that women would not desire them because of their femininity. And when they find that a woman desires that femininity, and they also find that they might be entitled, or not entitled, but inclined to embrace her femininity in a way that they had never embraced femininity before, i.e. a sexual or a romantic way, a lot of these guys tend to go about it in ways that feel predatory, because they were not conditioned to believe that they would ever be able to have the attention of a woman, let alone the idea of a woman being in their bedroom. And I think that when we are having this new era, this new renaissance and this new resurgence of all of these men, you know, and all of these women who are coming out and saying, you know, I don't mind a bisexual man. I wouldn't mind if my man had done this. Doechii, you know, famously said, you know, one of the scariest things in the world to her is, you know, is dating a heterosexual man. That's one of the things that is like so crazy to her. And honestly, I tell people this all the time, and I think folks believe that it's just like some agenda shit, because I say all the time, I really wish that heterosexuality didn't exist. I kind of wish that none of the titles exist, but I really feel like if I could do away with something as it pertains to like the social sphere of dating, I wish we could take away the navigation of sexualities, because I believe that it hinders a lot of people. A lot of people would do a lot more if there wasn't some sort of weird social stigma around the behavior. I think that there are so many women that would give in to a certain type of man if there wasn't a stereotype around sexualities of those men. I think that there are so many more women who would stop being DO with other women if there weren't stereotypes around lesbianism and what that means. Because even though lesbianism is not as violently and vitriolically responded to as gay men, I think that there is still a certain stereotype and stigma that certain women who are also into women don't want to befall them, because it's just like, well, that's not the type of woman that I am. And if I lean into this, then it perpetuates the people that I am. And so folks run away from the labels and not the actual act or not the actual, determination of their own sexuality, which then puts us in a conversation where we now have men trying to sneak and geek with women when they're 35 and women trying to sneak and geek, and do all of these other things when they turn 52. And I think that if we embrace the idea that people could just be, we would have a lot less of that. I don't want to get too much into the lesbian conversation because while I am pansexual, I am not a lesbian. And so I can't really speak to the fullness of the lesbian experience. But what I can speak to is the fact that when I navigate men these days, I have to ask. I was talking to one of my friends who was gay or is gay, sorry. And I asked him yesterday, we were having a conversation. I was like, so are you gay? And he was like, girl, I'm as gay as the first day of Christmas. And I was just like, okay, cool. But before I could get into why I had asked him that question, he immediately burst out. And we had another friend on the call with us. And he was like, girl, can you believe that I just got confused for straight? And I said, well, no, I didn't confuse you for straight. I didn't assume that you were straight. I just needed to know. And I wanted to ask if you were gay, because a lot of gay men are a lot more fluid in their response to sexuality specifically. Now, let me really name this, because a lot of you all are going to think or conflate the idea of being able to love and be in a relationship with a woman with being able to fuck a woman. And there's a difference. A lot of men, gay, straight, or indifferent, can fuck women, but it's about your capacity and your desire to be in relationship with women. So when I say they're not gay like they used to be, and y'all continue to hear me reference these men as gay, it is because I do still believe a lot of these men are gay by the nature of who they desire to be in real relationship and commit their lives to. But I don't believe that they are gay in the sense of their sexuality, because if you out here fucking women, even if it's on a dibble dabble, you are not gay. And that's to me is my own, like, that's my thing. Maybe I'm calling, things in and I should mind my own trans business. But I do believe that, like, if you're a man and you're dibbling, dabbling, you got your girlfriends that you pop over to, and y'all are lavender marrying it with a little bit of sex in between every now and then, I find it hard to really just say that you're gay. But I understand why socially you would admit that you're gay, because you don't necessarily desire to be in relationship with women. But every now and then a little piece of coochie call you and you answer the phone, and that's okay. But I think that this is causing a rift in the way that these types of men navigate all types of women, because they forget that you can't just walk up to women that you don't have that agreement with and assume that she understands that full force. Because a lot of y'all are gonna get your feelings hurt trying to make every single girl a conquest when y'all get drunk, because not every single girl gets drunk and want to have sex with her gay bestie. And some of y'all are really navigating these things in ways that feel harmful, and they feel like you are using women for the sake of being able to experience something when you know that you don't have any desire to actually pursue it beyond sex. And so a large part of this epidemic of at least what I'm talking about with gay men not really being gay, but not necessarily wanting to own that or name that, is the fact that it harms women by way of the fact that because you have not been able to really nail this down for yourself, the way that you communicate with, to, and about women as a response to this can be harmful, because you put women in this box that says that we are for your pleasure, your sexual pleasure, and nothing else. And outside of the idea of having some sort of friendship in order to be able to have access to my box, we're not going to really be anything conducive for one another. And as soon as you find Mr. John, Jacob, Jingle, or Irish Schmidt, you're going to leave me in the dust. And as a woman who does like men, regardless of the fact that you are gay, I have to pick up the pieces of my emotions and remember and realize that I set myself up for this. And while the woman and the women in situations like this are not, saints and Mother Mary and absolved of their part that they play in this, I do believe that oftentimes men, no matter whether they're straight or gay, have that gift that makes you fall and makes you think that everything is going to be okay. And you don't really realize or recognize or see any of these patterns until it's far too late. And by the time you catch it, you done fell in love and he got a husband. So a part of this, and a part of me wants to have more of a conversation around how do we make space for men to truly be sexually fluid, to truly have conversations around the way that they feel about about navigating love and relationships and life and all of the things without also having to make them choose between the way that they identify in relationship and the way that they navigate the world as it pertains to, just what they like sexually. And I am finding myself in a pickle because when you have this conversation with gay men who are hell-bent on being gay and that's their thing and all of that, but they do still want to dibble and dabble with women, a lot of them get really defensive because, and I've known this because being a part of the queer community, I recognize that in the same way that some cisgender women don't want to date bisexual men because they're afraid of him leaving her for a man, a lot of men don't want to date bisexual men because they're afraid of him leaving her for a woman. And so that's the other crux of this entire thing, is that if I've been gay for my entire life, right, on paper, in practice, I've been gay because that's what the people told me, and I fall for this and X, Y, and Z, and then I get into this thing, I realize that I like this girl, and all of this stuff happens. What happens is if I lean into this relationship, if I do this relationship and this relationship does not work out, I can't go back to the gay community and find a boy that's going to touch me outside of a sexual experience, because for whatever reason, gay men and cis women, some of y'all, not all of y'all, but some of y'all have this weird competition going on where y'all don't want these men to be able to bounce back and forth between the two of y'all. And I think that that's unfortunate, and it's also unfair because y'all will be out here having sex with a man that done been around the block 17 times and but the second that you find out that this man has been in a relationship with a woman, or the second that you find out that this man has been in a relationship with another man, now all of a sudden this particular man with this good job and these awesome benefits that treats you like a queen or a king or a person and makes you feel all of the things that you need to feel is no longer an active candidate because you want to be able to say that he is definitively one thing. And I think that that's another reason for why we are seeing an expressive group of men that are being hypersexual towards women without actually wanting to engage in discourse. And it's not necessarily because they're not even into that. Some of the guys are into that, but they recognize that if they find themselves in a predicament where they find love in a woman and that does not work out, then their options become limited. And I think that as a society, we have to move away. And this is why I say, I think that doing away with heterosexuality altogether will help everybody, because if there is no heterosexuality holding people back, you could be as straight as you want to be, but there wouldn't be a stigma around people who are not as straight as they want to be. And I think that that's where the problem lies. The issue doesn't lie in the title. The issue lies in the stigma that we place on the title. Imagine how many other people would be queer if being queer was okay and nobody gave a fuck. And also imagine how many happier relationships people would be in if people could name that they were queer without feeling like they were going to be, exiled from all of the things that they like and find expressive. And I also hate that oftentimes when it is a man who is expressing his interest in something other than women, he is often, just kind of sort of exiled on both sides. And so that is where I think we get a lot of this DL culture. I think that that's where we get a lot of the lying and a lot of the, the things that happen. And it's just because if these people have no space to put all of this energy and they realize how the game is going to go for them, a lot of them are going to assume the position and lie before you can ever tell them that they can't have access anymore, because it means more to them to have human companionship, and it means more to them to have human access than it does for them to hold on to some moniker. And so thus people get lied to and people make decisions that they think are going to help them in the end. And ultimately it doesn't help anybody. Everybody gets harmed. Nobody gets what they need out of the situation. And everybody walks away feeling like these types of people are liars and these types of people will give you this type of experience. And that fucking sucks, because that is just not the truth. So my article really talks and explores what it means to be gay in this day and age, and what I, kind of sort of have picked up on based off of my experience as a trans woman with some of these men. Now, mind you, some of these gay men are hella transmissic, and so some of these gay men are not having these experiences with all types of women. They're only having these experiences with cis women. And I don't know if there are any cis women in any of the comment sections that are watching this, but have any of you all had experiences with gay men that you felt like were teetering on something that felt very familiar, but it's usually happening with a man that identifies as heterosexual? And if you have, how comfortable were you with that situation? Did you initiate that situation, or did he initiate that situation? And also, was there drugs? Were there, was there a little bit of alcohol? Was there some sort of thing that kind of sort of put you both at ease, or did it happen naturally? And I'm only asking these questions because I want to know if there's truly space for people to show up in their authentic selves, or if there always needs to be some sort of buffer so that both parties has an excuse for why it happened in the event that it does not work out the way that they thought that it would. So let me preface that with, some sort of explanation. I think oftentimes people will use drugs and or, some form of liquor or whatever in order to justify a behavior later in case it doesn't go as well as they had hoped that it would go. And so usually you'll hear these situations happen and it's like, oh yeah, me and my gay best friend, we did it one time, but we went to the club and we were drunk and we were this and we were that. And I think that while that's okay because, grown people do what grown people do, I don't like the fact that in most cases where you have a situation where a man who has come out as gay has this type of experience, and the first thing that both of them say usually is that, oh, we were drunk. And so it makes it seem as though on one side of the coin, the woman is only dealing with the man because she was drunk, and that's her alibi. And the man was only dealing with the woman because he was drunk, and that's his alibi. When oftentimes there was no alibi needed. Y'all had been wanting to fuck. She thought you were gay. You thought you were gay. Everybody thought that everybody was something other than what they thought that they were because they were taught to believe those things by people in a society and all of these passed down quiet is kept ass rules. And now we're having this experience that feels like it needs to be lied about rather than leaned into to have a conversation about what it is that we actually want as people. So, I just think that there is a lot to be discussed and a lot to be talked about when we having conversations about the new age gay. It's not to say that I don't think that gay men exist. I do believe that gay men exist, but I do believe that gay men do not exist within a silo. And a large part of what people are trying to do is box men in based off of sorry, y'all, I'm looking for my eyebrow brush. That's like a big part of my face. But a large part of what people tend to do is box men in based off of stereotypes and not what they're experiencing. And I think that could definitely change the way that we have conversations around that could definitely change the way that we have conversations around what queerness is versus what gay is versus what pansexual is versus what bisexual is, because there are so many people that are out here identifying as something that they are definitely not. And we've got to fix it. And I don't think that it's like my duty to fix it or anything, but I just think that shit would be better if we fixed it. That's all. What do y'all think? I'm going to try to read the comments, but I am a little bit on a time crunch today because this thing that I'm doing for y'all that I am so excited about that I can't wait for y'all to see has my attention this afternoon. But y'all let me know what y'all think while I clean up these brows, because y'all know while I do these brows, it ain't no talking. All right. All right. Somebody said that they agree. Somebody said that it's complicated. Somebody said sometimes. Somebody said, I agree and we need to fix this. Somebody on YouTube said that my queer identity is not valued among gay men and their politics are often based around cis hetero ideologies. I definitely agree with that. Absolutely. I think that oftentimes a lot of gay men are fearful of men who also have sex with women because they don't believe that they can compete with vagina. And that's just my real onset thing. But I don't think that it's about what is better and what is worse. I think that it's about the connection between the people. I believe that if you really like the person that the part is attracted to, it's going to feel like the best thing that you've ever had, whether that's a woman or a man. I just think that a lot of people are so afraid to be embarrassed Y'all like to say that it's about, oh, like, what if he cheat on me with a man, or what if he cheat on me with a woman? But I don't think that it's about whether or not this person cheats, because we all go into relationships knowing that there's a possibility that somebody might cheat on you. I think that what it is that we all understand that there's a social conversation that happens around a particular, a particular aesthetic. And we don't want people to be out here joking around about how we got left for somebody who is now dating the same sex. And I think in particular, specifically for Black women, it's already tough enough to find a man that's decent and good and well. And then you find one, and then you find out that this man also be out here doing dudes. And I don't think that it's even just the heartbreak of the fact that you were cheated on. It's the fact that you know they finna wear your ass out. Your mama them, your auntie them, grandma if she's still alive, your friends at work, everybody finna wear you out, because everybody can't wait to talk about and downgrade a man, especially a Black one, who is not exuding masculinity in a very specific way. So that is just my 2 cents. Somebody on YouTube says it's very complicated. It's all a spectrum. Even men who prefer trans women, a lot of them are masculine, but want the trans woman to take on the masculine role in the bedroom. That's a complex. Let me tell you something. The way you just spoke that word, oh, that was one. That might be my next paper. Because that was a word. Okay. I love the way that you broke that down. Let me read that again for the people who are not on YouTube and can't really see that comment. This person says it's very complicated. It's all a spectrum. Even men, right? Even men who prefer trans women. Let me just pop this up on the screen so y'all can see it, okay? Even men who prefer trans women, a lot of them are masculine, but they want the trans woman to take on the masculine role in the bedroom. It is a complex. And I could not agree with that statement more. I think that it's very interesting, the fact that like super hyper masculine men most of the time tend to be the ones that want to date and be with trans women. But that masculinity kind of sort of stops or gets thwarted when you get into the bedroom or a sexual situation and you realize that this boy want to be bent over and turned every which way but loose. And I think that there's also something to be said there about the types of relationships that men have to masculinity and the types of relationship that, cishet men have with cishet women. Right. I think that a lot of these men necessarily don't really have a preference for trans girls. Some of them do, but I think some of them have a preference for, having their prostate played with. And we all know a vast majority of cis women's opinions around butt play with their man. I just watched a video of that lady who be cussing real good. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Tia, I think her name is, Rick Ross' ex-girlfriend or wife. I don't know who she used to be, but I know she be cussing real good, and y'all be watching the videos. And I happened to scroll across a video of her this morning, and literally it was a video where she was saying, I don't care if you like to get your ass played in or if you want to get pegged by a woman that is gay, because no straight man should want anybody playing in his butt. And if you let your girlfriend play in your butt, it's only a matter of time that you decide that you want the real thing and you start letting men play in your butt. And while I don't agree with that, I think that that's one of those things that we have to combat, because that's another reason why we're in the predicament that we're in, where men who like women, love women, only want to be with women, can't even express their interest and their desires to women because everything is gay to women. And it just makes me wonder, like, one of the things that I always do to like vet people and vet homegirls is I be asking, like, if somebody that you were interested in, or if somebody that, you've dated happens to tell you that they were interested in a trans woman, or if we're at a party and a dude is kind of looking real good, but that dude ends up looking at me, is he still attracted even though he didn't want you? Or is now all of a sudden he's disgusting, he got a big forehead, his shoes dirty and dusty and old? Because that will tell you a lot about how your cis woman friend feels about you. I don't know if I can necessarily be friends with a person who would tell me that they have an issue with dating a man who, you know, has dated trans women. I don't know if I could be friends with somebody who, if we're out somewhere and we both spot a guy and we're both attracted to this guy, but the guy finds me more attractive, you know, and that's whether or not he knows or not that I'm trans. If the guy just finds me attractive, and I only say that because, so here's another short story. When I used to work at NYX or NYX, I had a store manager. I was the assistant store manager and she was the store manager. And one day this man comes in and he had to be like 6'5". He was African. He was built. He was, you know, super handsome, Nigerian man. He worked at the Pentagon. It was a whole thing. And this man came into the store and pretended to be buying like a birthday gift for somebody, but it wasn't a girlfriend. It wasn't a wife. It wasn't a daughter or anything, but he made up this whole like sob story about how he was buying this gift for this girl. And he specifically wanted me to help him with this gift. Now, mind you, my cisgender store manager is there and she's all in his face and very much so giving him, you know, the judge, and he is not paying her any attention. So when he finally like directly says like, no, I want her to help me, and it was clear that he was trying to flirt with me, when he gets all of this stuff, I want to say he got about like $200 worth of makeup that was really for me. So that's the gag, right? So this man gets about $200 worth of makeup. And, you know, all of these were things that I suggested to him. He was like, he kept asking like, well, what would you suggest? What would you suggest? And I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm suggesting. He spent about $200. And then at the end of the purchase, he's like, hey, when do you go on your lunch break? Because I would love to treat you for lunch this afternoon. After he leaves, my cisgender store manager, who I thought I was cool with, who I thought was down, who I thought was all of these things, she turns to me and says, well, girl, I hope you have a good lunch, but you know, I don't understand how he could not know. What do you mean? I don't understand how he could not know. You know, like I didn't understand because when I first got the job, you didn't know. I had to tell you that I was trans, right? And so I was just, it was one of those things where I was just like, I don't understand why it was such a big deal for this man to be interested in me. And also how he went from being the African king that we were both whispering about to now all of a sudden being this man that she seemed to no longer, you know, be interested in anymore. And that told me everything that I really needed to know, because even though I didn't tell that man that that was her opinion of him, even though I didn't tell that man that that is what happened, it was one of those things that I registered in the back of my mind that said, this is very likely why a lot of these men don't say what their attractions are unless it's absolutely necessary, because it puts them in this whole other bracket of men who are deemed as undateable or men who are deemed as blind or stupid because they can't clock a trans woman right away. And mind you, for the sake of context of this story, no, I did not tell him that I was trans right then and there because we were at work, and I don't need you cracking up at my job and you know, doing all of the things. But I did tell him before I decided to go out for lunch, and he was perfectly fine with it. And also he ended up giving me the bag of $200 worth of makeup that he bought, because he was like, I lied, I just needed an excuse to stay in the store and talk to you. And so that's why I was asking you like what you would prefer. I'm hoping that these are things that you would actually wear, because if they're not and you were just trying to sell me, then you're gonna be stuck with it because I don't need it, right? So the guy was actually really, really dope and really cool. But the way that she responded to his attraction for me let me know that a lot of the men that are navigating these situations are going through that, right? And so it's like, how can I be a man and we're at dinner, we're having the things, we're laughing, we're kiki, and we're ha-haing, and maybe we're in Atlanta and a trans woman walks by the table and all of a sudden you start talking shit about this trans woman, right? How does that make a man feel if he's a man who also engages with trans women and he's not a man who is confident yet to be able to say that to somebody who doesn't need that information? But as a person who he's dating, he was prepared to give you that information, and now he's, you know, kind of sort of scared away. Now, to be very clear, I'm not putting the blame on women for niggas being DL. At the end of the day, y'all will go up against anybody and everybody and your mama to be a drug dealer, even though you know that shit ain't right. So I just feel like if you like a trans woman, you should be able to stand in it the same way you stand in all the rest of your other so-called bad choices, because a lot of y'all will stand 10 toes down on being an abusive man. Y'all will stand 10 toes down on being a lazy man, but you won't stand 10 toes down on being the man that loves trans women or the man that wants to be with trans women as well. And I think that that's lame. But I also feel like it comes from that space where we're still talking about the effects of why men are feeling that way. And so, to be clear, again, I'm not blaming women for the behavior, but I am saying that we cannot rule out the fact that that is a part of the reason why the behavior takes place. So, you know, like, let's just call a thing and be honest about the fact that a large part of these men are not necessarily gay. They lean into the moniker because it's easier than trying to navigate all of the nuances of what it means to be bisexual, pansexual, or have a sexual fluidity. And I think that, again, if we dig deep into the back of all of this, there's an indoctrination of queerness that is thrust upon young boys that are perceived a certain way, and not young boys that have named that they are a certain way. Now, in my particular case, I did name that I was queer, not to my mama, but I did name that I was queer fairly early on. But because I named that I was queer fairly early on, and also because it was very clear that I was gay as Christmas as well, I think that I didn't really have to have a lot of conversation or dialogue with my mom about it, because it was just something that was like all over me. And that gave me more autonomy to like K Sheila, because my mama never expected me to bring a girl home. My mama never expected me to have those experiences. And so she was just happy to get what she could get, because in her mind, K Sheila being around, even though she couldn't stand her, and she will not admit it to this day. So mama, if you are on here, don't lie, because you did not like that girl. And just because she died, don't be trying to make it seem like you, because you did not like K Sheila, girl. Like, you did not like her. Because I feel like my mama on here, y'all, because she be on here, she just be watching and don't say nothing. And then after the live is over, she'll call me and be like, girl, why you was talking about me? But I'm just saying, I feel like you ain't like that girl. Okay, I'm just saying. Anyway, even though my mama didn't care for K Sheila, I think that there was a part of her that was happy that K Sheila was around, because I think in her mind, as long as K Sheila was around, it meant that she had a possibility at having this heteronormative-ish relationship with me that she knew she wasn't going to get, because it was very clear that, at least at that time in my life, the only girl that I was willing to admit that I was attracted to was K Sheila. And I think that K Sheila gave my mom a silver lining. So even though she didn't like her, she kind of just made do, because it gave her hope. Right. And I think that there are so many moms and so many family members and people who have a K Sheila in their life, and they use that and they see that as a space for hope, rather than seeing that as a queer identity that needs to be embraced. I wonder how it would have been embraced if my mom had just embraced the fact that I liked K Sheila, and not on like a surface level, but on a real level. If she had let K Sheila come over the way that she told me that she would. Like, I grew up and my mama would be like, if you gonna fuck in this house, because ain't no man finna be running my sons down the street in his drawers and stuff like that. And I just felt like, even though I was dating K Sheila, I didn't get the privileges of being able to have her over and do all of the things that she said that I would be able to do, because I think deep down in my mom's heart, she did not. I'm sorry, y'all, we got plants and this gnat is killing me. But I think deep down in my mom's heart, because she didn't like K Sheila, it didn't really matter, because that wasn't the girl that she wanted me to do those things with or have those experiences with. And to a degree, I understand it, but I also hated the fact that who I really, really liked also wasn't good enough. So it was just like, I really shouldn't have been able to be gay, but also like the girl who I wanted to be straight with wasn't the type of girl that my mama liked. And there were so many politics around what it meant to be with a woman that it almost just felt easier to do the thing that was, I guess, quote unquote, disappointing in the Black household. And here we are. All of these years later, I am a 32-year-old trans woman who is pansexual, and I'm thinking through what life could have been like and what life would have been like for me as a young gay boy. Not to say that I wouldn't have transitioned, but it is to say that, like, I wonder what life would have been like for me as a young gay boy if it would have been accepted that I was just feminine, versus people telling me that I was a sissy and me believing it, because I did understand that I had an affliction or like an affection towards women. I just wonder. And I wonder how many other young boys were told that they were gay before they were able to actually truly, you know, find for themselves what their affinity was for women. I didn't get an opportunity to find out for myself in the traditional way, but that's why I will always thank Kay Sheila. I will always thank her family for loving on me and for accepting me, even though I was the weird little gay boy that was dating their daughter and their sister. And, you know, nobody ever batted an eyelash. I'm still cool with Kay Sheila's people to this day. And, you know, like, they're family to me. But it's one of those things where, like, again, I recognize that everybody doesn't have a Kay Sheila story. So if you don't have a Kay Sheila story, then how are you finding yourself? How are you exploring this for yourself? And again, this is not to say that I think every gay man should try a little bit of coochie. That is not what I'm saying. If you know that you don't like the girls, you don't like the girls. This ain't for you. But this is for every gay man that is watching this right now and asking themselves, damn, is this me? This is for every gay man that is resonating with this situation, because last night you just was in some coochie and this morning you was texting the boy that you met at the club yesterday, right? There are so many different versions of the men that I think that we call gay that exist today. And I just want people to start to investigate the whys, the whats, the whos, the hows, and kind of sort of like the wins. When did you decide that you were going to lean into this thing, even though it didn't necessarily feel super, super, you know, connected to you? When did you decide, and why did you decide that it was okay to just take on this moniker that wasn't necessarily yours to hold because other people told you so many times that this is who you were? When did you decide that it wasn't okay to lean in to being yourself, and that it would be easier to just lean into whatever stereotypes people had placed on you? Because at those moments, and in those moments when we find ourselves looking and really investigating the why, we find out that there's so much more to unpack than the thing that we told ourselves at inception. And there's so much more to do and say around our sexualities than, you know, the social media landscape will have us believe. And when we start to open up this conversation around sexuality and gender and sex and all of these different things, I think that a lot of us will find that we've been bamboozled by thoughts and concepts and relationship dichotomies that no longer serve us because we're not our parents, right? So, you know, this is just my thing, right? Like, this was my little 2-cent rant for this morning, because I was really just kind of like, I was sitting with this. I was really sitting with this, and I was trying to figure out what exactly I was going to say. And so if this conversation has really touched you, or if it's made you think, then I really advise you to go to my Substack. I do have the link inside my story, and I advise you to just go and read the actual article. Like, if some of this stuff was a little bit too much for you, because I'm in the middle of trying to do my makeup and talk to y'all and stuff, and I might have been a little bit of scatterbrain, you know, the ADHD kicking and all that jazz. But if this resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, and you really want a more cohesive version of my thoughts that doesn't involve me actually doing my makeup while I'm trying to spill them, I would really say, yeah, go ahead, go to my Substack, read the article, let me know what y'all think in the comments. You know, I did post a little thing on my Instagram, engage in it, do all the things, and let me know, because I want to get into the conversation. Like, I want to really get into the conversation in the comments. I want to see what y'all thinking about it. I want to see what y'all feel. I want to, you know, all of the things. I do. I think that it's important that we all start to have open dialogue and open conversation around this. And it makes me really happy when I, you know, see people doing that. It makes me really happy. So, whoop, whoop, whoop. A bank, bank, bank. A bink, bink, bink. Yeah. I am almost done with my makeup, if y'all can't tell. And I am really excited. Like, I can't tell y'all why I'm excited, but I'm really excited. And when y'all find out in a couple of weeks why I'm excited, y'all are going to be gooped and gagged. That's all I'm going to say. When y'all find out why I'm excited in a couple of weeks, y'all are going to be gooped and gagged and bothered. And for the people who were only here for the topic, I'm done with the topic. So if you want to bounce off while I just finish my makeup and do a little bit of chit chat, you are more than welcome to bounce off while I do this little bit of chit chat. If you are okay watching the finished product and you know, all of the things, and you know, just chilling with me for a little bit longer while I finish my little finishing touches, you are also welcome to stay. But I just wanted to make it clear that I am done talking about the topic. I got through my thoughts and my feelings. So if you're here, then you could go ahead and just go on and Go read the article. Okay, read the article. This was very helpful as a wannabe trans ally cries. Wannabe because I'm still actively unlearning. So thank you for allowing me the space to do that. Come on, Brianna. Come on, Brianna. I love that for you. And I love the acknowledgement of the fact that you are not yet an ally, but you are a wannabe ally in training. I love that because the people got to know that also you don't get to be an ally until the community say you're an ally. I can't stand when I'm like talking to some of these people and they out here talking about, oh, I'm an ally. Who said that? Point me to the organization, point me to the queer person, point me to the queer people in your life that can vouch for that allyship. Because unless you got people that we can call and get some references to that are going to say that you are safe for community, baby, you are not an ally. You are a want to be ally in training. And I need you to respect that, okay? And so, Brianna, I appreciate you acknowledging and knowing, like, hey, I am on my journey to trying. I'm not there yet. And so therefore, I'm a wannabe ally. I'm trying to get to a space where y'all can trust me fully. But right now, there are going to be some moments where I cause some harm and some pain to y'all. And I don't want to be out here calling myself an ally until I can get most of that under those checks. Okay. My baby Jasmine said, run me those references, please. Yeah, I need them. I need a CSD or a CBS. Like I need all of it. I need your resume. I need your CSB. I need all of it. I need you to run me the things, run down the names to me, I need 3 or 4 references from the queer community, and none of them can have transphobia in their history, okay? So unfortunately, that excludes people like Flame Monroe and Samson McCormick, okay? They can't have transphobia in the past. They like that, you know, you can't be out here getting your ally points from people who ain't allies themselves, all right? But I really do appreciate the way that we were able to have this conversation today, you all. I appreciate the fact that y'all are really loving these Get Ready With Me's. I know that I'm not always super consistent, but like, as y'all know, I'm traveling a lot. And so trying to always bring my setup with me and then also trying to always do my makeup and talk to y'all, it really adds time onto my makeup. I'm learning how to better like not feel like I got to look at the camera the entire time, which is what slows me down because I feel like I need to like let y'all see my face versus like just doing the makeup and talking. But I think I'm getting better. I think I'm getting the hang of this thing. What y'all think? I think I'm getting a little bit better about like getting through my makeup in a timely fashion while also being able to talk to y'all and have what I believe are meaningful dialogues and conversations. And so, you know, I think I'm getting better. And for all of you people who want more of this, who would like to just see me a little bit more unhinged and saying the things that I can't say on Instagram because I ain't trying to get canceled, make sure y'all go over ahead and subscribe to my Patreon. The link to that is in my bio. I do have a tier that is for $30. Now, let me explain that $30 tier because I keep seeing all of you creepy old, you know, DL niggas trying to subscribe to the $30 here thinking that it's an OnlyFans. It is not an OnlyFans. It is just a place where I post my thirst traps that I don't post on the Instagram because, you know, my husband ain't with me posting my thirst traps on Instagram. But it's bikini pictures. It's me like doing pictures from behind. It is sexy pictures. It's things that I just would not post on Instagram for full consumption. But it's just, it's not OnlyFans. And so I'm sick of y'all subscribing to that $30 tier thinking that y'all gonna see me naked when I literally say in the description, this is not an OnlyFans and I will not be naked, right? I had one guy sign up for Patreon on that tier and he was hella upset because I guess he thought that it was gonna give OnlyFans. And I was like, bro, I said that it wouldn't. Would you like, why would you think I would lie about that? This ain't that type of thing. So please know and understand that if you are just trying to see me naked, don't book that. That is for people who are just like trying to lust after me a little bit, but this is not that. I only put that up there because it was a way for me to make money off of the thirsty ass dudes that be in my inbox. So there's that. If that doesn't work for you, then do not subscribe to it because you are not going to get what you think you're gonna get out of that tier. Okay. But yeah. But yeah, that's just like, you know, those are the breaks. Break it up, break it up, break down. And I am almost done with my little look. I hate this because this pencil is too dark, but I also hate walking away from the screen when I'm on live. I don't know what that is. Like, I feel like when you on live, you shouldn't have to walk away to get nothing, you know? Scam them, sis. No, very much so. Very much so. The way that I scam the pervs be so funny. Because I still get your money for the month. You know, like you might have canceled, but I still get it for the month, you know? And I really just like, I enjoy that so much. I enjoy that people be so pressed when they go in there looking for nudes and don't find them. I love this lip combo, but I hate this lip combo because once this brown bleeds, it's horrible. But again, in my defense, I just don't want to get up and go get my chestnut pencil out of my purse because then y'all get to see me walk away. And I know y'all nasty. Okay. Y'all are so nasty. So I don't want y'all to see me walk away. But also, I'm probably going to change this lip though. Because I don't know. It's all right, but it's just too dark. You know, can you talk a little bit about the transphobia inside the Black community? I'm about to get up off of here, babe, and that's a conversation that's going to take a lot longer than I'm going to give. But it's definitely a conversation that we can have at a later date. But I also talk about the transphobia within the Black community a lot. And Safe Flight Jazz, I also talk about the transphobia within the Black community a lot. So if you go on my page, you'll find something, I'm sure. But as far as today, we won't be having that conversation right this particular second, but we definitely can at a different date, at a different time, at a different location for several different reasons, if that makes sense. So yeah, that is me. That is it. This is the finished look. I'm going to spray on my setting spray and stuff off camera. And I'm actually on time. So let me get up out of here so that I can get to where I'm going so that I can do the thing that I want to do for y'all that y'all are going to be so excited about when y'all finally hear about it. And I will talk to y'all hopefully tomorrow. Maybe I'll have something to do tomorrow. I don't know. I might be going to a party. We can get ready with each other there. All right. Bye, everybody. Instagram is going to take me a little bit longer to end you.